Welcome to Farming Aid.
Chillingham cattle aren't just another rare breed. They are one of the last living links to a world that existed long before modern farming ever took shape. Hidden deep inside Northumberland's ancient parkland, this pale and powerful herd has survived hundreds of years with almost no human interference. Their instincts are wild, their history is untouched, and their story reads more like a legend than a livestock report. In this video we dive into the secrets that make Chillingham cattle so extraordinary, from their mysterious origins to the behaviors that set them apart from every domestic herd on Earth. If you've ever wondered what cattle looked and acted like before centuries of selective breeding changed them forever, this is the closest glimpse you'll get. Let's step inside the park and uncover the ancient clues this wild herd has guarded for generations. What makes Chillingham cattle fascinating is not just their age as a herd, although their documented history stretches back at least 800 years. It is their isolation that shapes their mystery. For centuries, these cattle have bred within the boundaries of Chillingham Park without the influence of outside bloodlines. They have lived through wars, storms, political upheavals, agricultural revolutions, and the steady march of modern breeding strategies, yet they remain genetically distinct. Biologists who study them explain that their genetic uniformity is unlike anything you find in common commercial herds. Every calf born today carries almost the same genetic signature as the animals that roamed the same land during the Middle Ages. This creates both challenges and wonders. On the one hand, their lack of genetic variation means they are vulnerable to sudden disease outbreaks. On the other hand, it gives researchers a rare look at what early domesticated cattle might have been like before selective breeding reshaped the species into the highly specialized dairy and beef lines we know today. Walk into Chillingham Park and you immediately feel the difference. The cattle do not respond like farm animals that expect hay or grain. They move with tension and awareness, and they treat humans as outsiders. A bull will stand alert, head raised, muscles tight and eyes fixed on every movement. The cows position themselves around their calves with the kind of protective precision you expect from wild deer. They are smaller than many modern breeds, with lean bodies and a toughness that comes from surviving on rough grazing and harsh winter climates without the comforts of barns or supplemental feeding. Their coat is a pale, creamy white, often with darker ears, and the contrast between their light color and the ancient oak forest around them gives them an almost ghost-like presence. Their horns curve outward with a shape that looks far closer to ancient cattle than to modern commercial lines. These instincts shape a social world inside the herd that is nothing like what you see in domestic cattle. Instead of the relaxed, predictable behavior farmers are used to, Chillingham cattle operate in tight groups ruled by hierarchy and dominance. The lead bull controls the herd with absolute authority. Rival bulls may challenge him, but the battles that follow are intense and sometimes dangerous. These contests determine breeding rights and leadership, and they keep the social order firmly in place. The cows move in coordinated clusters, and their bond with their calves is fierce. When humans approach too closely, cows will step forward, hooves planted, ready to defend their young. This makes direct handling impossible, which is why the herd is left mostly undisturbed. Their caretakers observe them from a distance, intervening only when absolutely necessary, and this minimal contact allows the cattle to retain their natural behavior year after year. The story of how these animals survived into the modern age is full of near misses and narrow escapes. During the harsh winter of 1947, when food was scarce and snow buried the park for weeks, their population dropped to a critically low number. Only a handful of cattle remained, and scientists later discovered just how narrow that bottleneck was when studying their genetics. Many herds would have collapsed under such pressure, but the Chillingham cattle adapted with stubborn resilience. They found shelter in the woodlands, dug through snow to reach grass, and used the cover of the park's terrain to protect themselves from the cold. Their survival shaped the modern herd's toughness, giving them a natural ability to handle harsh climates better than many farm breeds. This endurance is one of the reasons they attract the interest of conservationists and geneticists who want to understand how certain traits help animals persist through extreme environmental challenges. The park where they live plays a major role in that survival story. Chillingham Park is not a typical pasture. It is a mosaic of woodland, grassland, bog and rolling hills, with pockets of old trees and natural water sources. This landscape creates a perfect observation zone for scientists because it functions like a natural laboratory. The cattle choose their grazing patterns, decide their movement routes and regulate their population through natural selection. No artificial breeding programs guide them, and no farmers select animals for growth rate or milk yield. The survival of each calf depends on strength, health and luck. This gives researchers a rare opportunity to witness how natural selection operates inside a closed herd. In a world where almost every livestock breed is shaped by human preferences, the Chillingham cattle remain an exception. Their feeding behavior adds another layer to their uniqueness. Instead of relying on thick grass or nutrient-rich feed, they thrive on sparse vegetation, rough plants, and low-calorie forage that high-performance beef breeds would struggle to maintain weight on. Their metabolism has adapted to this kind of low-resource environment, making them incredibly efficient at turning basic vegetation into energy. This explains why they maintain their slender, athletic build year-round. They do not accumulate the heavy muscle mass you see in commercial breeds, but they are built for survival, not market weight. Watching them graze is like watching a species that evolved alongside Britain's original landscape, one that learned to make the most of whatever grew under the shifting seasons. The bulls, in particular, display behavior that is closer to wild species like bison or wild yak than to domestic cattle. Their territorial instincts are sharp, and their role in herd leadership requires constant vigilance. A bull that loses a battle for dominance can be expelled from the main group, forced to live on the fringes until another opportunity arises. Young bulls grow up watching these power dynamics, and the tension within the herd increases as they mature into adulthood. When the breeding season arrives, the atmosphere becomes electric. Bulls vocalize, posture, and stand ready to defend their position from challengers. These displays are part of what gives Chillingham cattle their wild character, and they are also one of the reasons why caretakers maintain a safe distance. Unlike domestic bulls that are accustomed to human presence, a Chillingham bull sees people as possible threats, and he behaves accordingly. Even their vocalizations feel ancient. The cows communicate with deep, low sounds that carry across the park, especially in the evening. During calving season, these calls become even more frequent. Mothers keep their calves hidden among the undergrowth for the first days, and their soft calls help them maintain contact while staying out of sight. These hidden birthing sites create an important survival strategy, allowing calves to avoid attracting predators when Britain still had wolves. Through generations that never needed to abandon it. This is one of the many reasons why studying Chillingham cattle feels like studying a living fossil. They hold on to instincts long lost in domestic breeds, and because the herd has remained unchanged for so long, those behaviors give scientists clues about how early cattle lived when humans were not yet dominant managers of their survival. One of the most intriguing elements of their story is their relationship with people. Although they live in a park owned and protected by a trust, the cattle do not rely on human assistance. They are monitored, not managed. Observers track their numbers, health and breeding patterns, but they avoid interfering unless disease threatens the entire herd. This hands-off approach maintains the purity of their natural behavior but also requires a deep understanding of when intervention is necessary. The caretakers work like wildlife managers rather than farmers, and this philosophy has guided the herd through centuries of survival. Their presence is subtle, patient and respectful of the cattle's independence. This dynamic keeps the herd wild while ensuring that issues like parasites or sudden emergencies do not destroy generations of irreplaceable genetics. Visitors who come to Chillingham Park often describe the experience as surreal. You can sense the history in the air, and when the cattle appear in the open meadow or step out from behind a stand of ancient trees, the moment feels almost cinematic. Their movement is deliberate, alert and connected to their environment in a way that most livestock no longer display. They seem to notice every rustle in the grass and every shift in the wind. This brings a deeper appreciation for what domestication has meant for modern breeds. While commercial cattle have been selected for traits like docility, efficient feed conversion, or milk yield, Chillingham cattle represent the world before those human-driven goals. They show what cattle might have looked like if they had continued developing under natural pressures instead of farm management. Their survival also raises important conversations about conservation. Preserving a genetically uniform herd has risks, and some scientists argue that maintaining such a limited gene pool could eventually endanger them. Others counter that this herd offers a unique scientific treasure that should be protected precisely because of its uniformity and ancient lineage. Chillingham cattle remind us that not all genetic lines need to be optimized for farm production. Some exist as historical archives, carrying biological stories that cannot be replaced once lost. For this reason, the Chillingham Wild Cattle Association works to preserve both the herd and the park environment that sustains them. Their efforts include habitat maintenance, careful monitoring and public education so that more people understand the significance of keeping this herd wild. Another fascinating aspect is how the cattle navigate seasonal changes. Winter in Northumberland is not forgiving, yet the cattle endure it without shelter or supplementary feed. They rely on thick winter coats, instinctive foraging patterns and the shelter of the park's terrain. Their ability to survive harsh winters speaks to their ancient lineage, since historical climates were even more brutal. When spring arrives, the herd becomes more active. Calves born in early summer learn quickly from the herd's movements, grazing skills and awareness. This seasonal cycle has repeated itself for so many centuries that it forms the rhythm of the park. The cattle move in patterns shaped not by human routines but by generational memory. Their trails crisscross the park, used year after year, worn into the earth by hooves that have followed the same routes for hundreds of years. One of the most incredible things about Chillingham cattle is the way they capture the imagination of both farmers and researchers. For farmers, they represent a symbol of what cattle once were before breeding programs refined them into modern production lines. They show a raw, original version of strength and adaptation. For researchers, the herd provides scientific insights into hereditary traits, disease resistance, aggression, fertility, and environmental adaptation. Studies on their immune system reveal unusual patterns, possibly shaped by centuries of surviving without outside genetic influence. Their skeletal structure, muscle composition, and overall physiology reveal traits that domestic breeds have long lost. This makes them valuable reference animals in understanding bovine evolution and history. Looking at their future, there is both hope and responsibility. The herd remains stable today, but its survival depends on continuous conservation work. Protecting their environment, monitoring their health and safeguarding them from disease threats are ongoing challenges. At the same time, their existence inspires new generations of researchers, students, and animal lovers to learn more about pre-modern livestock and the ways ancient breeds adapted to their surroundings. There is also a growing effort to share their story with the world, helping people understand why preserving such a rare herd matters. Their survival is not just about keeping cattle alive, it is about preserving a living chapter of natural history. Chillingham cattle remind us that not every part of farming is about production or efficiency. Some animals carry stories that stretch far beyond economics, and this herd is one of the clearest examples of that. Their wild instincts, their untouched history and their ability to survive in a world that has changed around them make them a true living relic of Britain's past. Visiting them or even learning about them gives you a sense of stepping back in time to witness cattle as they once were, shaped by nature rather than people. If this glimpse into their world inspired you, make sure to like the video, leave a comment and subscribe for more deep dives into extraordinary breeds and the hidden stories behind them.